Welcome to the June 14th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Victor Planning Board. We'll start the meeting with the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Okay, we are missing Joe Limbeck. Once again, he's out of town on business. Got some announcements before we start. The emergency exits are to the right and left, clearly stating emergency exits, but just in case smoke covers that, I'm telling you where they are now. Restrooms are just outside the entrance door and to the left. Please be sure to sign the attendance sheet at the back of the meeting room, even if you are a developer or presenting an application. There are business cards at the back table next to the sign-in sheet to take with you with the email address and phone number for the planning department. Also on the back table is a copy of the resolutions that will be read tonight along with the agenda. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. If you need to take a call, please take it out in the hall. Same goes for any conversations. If you need to talk to somebody, please take it out in the hall. Don't do it in the meeting room. We have some meeting minutes that were distributed to the board. Everybody had a chance to look at them. I submitted whatever comments I had. Do we have a motion to approve these minutes? That would be for March 22, April 26, and May 24, 2022.
I'll move we approve all three.
Okay, Joe Logan moves. Second?
I'll second.
Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any correspondence? Okay. Did receive something from Peter Vars. Today's date, 5:14 p.m. And I'm seeing it for the first time. I suppose everybody else is as well. The legal notice for the public hearings appeared in the Daily Messenger along with the under review signs being posted on the subject parcels. Postcards were mailed to property owners within a minimum of 500 feet from the location for the initial public hearing date of each application. For applications carried over, please refer to the Planning and Building Office. And speaking of that, Kim, you have something for us?
Thought you were going to forget me.
No, never. Well, yes, sometimes.
Your next meeting will be June 28th, with a public hearing for Auction Direct that was removed from tonight's agenda. At 620 State Route 96, applicant is requesting approval to extend the front lot line pavement by 18 feet and 200 feet long to display inventory. They did they are in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for an area variance for that. And your second public hearing will be for Di Pasquale Garage at 7928 Oak Brook Circle. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a 325 square foot garage on the parcel. That property is in the limited development district, and that is why it will be in front of you that evening. And then any carryovers from tonight.
Okay, any questions for Kim? Thank you, Kim.
Lisa reminded us it was a Zoom meeting. Next meeting is a Zoom meeting.
Our next meeting is going to be under Zoom because there's just no place in the building for us with the primary elections going on.
That's correct, Ernie. Just real quick, all next week, there is early voting, and this room is used for that purpose. So starting on Saturday, the 18th, through the following Sunday, this room is in use. That's the reason for Zoom. The 28th, as you mentioned, is the primary election. Also, Monday, Town Hall is closed on the 20th for Juneteenth, just so you know. A couple things coming up with that, so a couple closings, that's it. And again, as Lisa and everybody's mentioned, next one is Zoom, so please don't show up because we won't be here.
We'll be somewhere, though. You have anything else for the town board? Okay, thanks, Ed. With regard to public hearings, speakers are requested to limit comments to 3 minutes and will be asked to conclude comments at 5 minutes. First one is the Delta Sonic Car Wash. The public hearing on this is still open. This is 40 SP 2021 and 10 SU 2021. This is at 7463 State Route 96. It's zoned commercial and light industrial. The owner is Dilip Patel. Tax map number 6.00-1-64.100. Applicant is requesting approval to demolish the existing buildings and to construct a 13,914 square foot interior detail building located along New York State Route 96, a 10,257 square foot exterior building car wash with 3,185 square feet of prep hut located behind the existing Taco Bell, and a 13,164 square foot indoor vacuum building and outdoor vacuum area located behind Wendy's, along with new lighting, landscaping, pavement, and drainage. James.
Good evening. James Baglioli. I'm an attorney for Delta Sonic, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank the board. I've been coming here 20 years. This is the first time I've been first on the agenda. And I didn't know what to do with myself, but I got here early. I'm going to walk through the entire project. This is our fourth public hearing. I'll walk through what we've done since we've last been here. Can you fast forward to the building elevations? I don't have a pointer. Keep one more slide forward, one more slide forward, one more slide forward. So we can just do this. You asked for the color blue that was in. I did bring a sample. It's not a really bright blue. It's a darker blue. I'll pass this around. That's the blue on the
Is the blue illuminated?
The blue is not illuminated. It's similar to a standing seam metal roof. So that is the blue. That was one
Comment that says it's ultramarine.
ultramarine.
So James, that roof is actually clear. You didn't,
Yes.
there's,
Yeah. Yep.
it's not clear because you want to see inside. It's clear because that's the way it's going to be finished.
So we can stop that. And we should, and if we can back up 2 slides. Forward 1. I'm getting there. There we go. We have addressed all the comments we've received. We provided written responses. We've gotten sign-offs from most of your consultants, including CPL, who has signed off on the traffic study. The county has also signed off on the traffic study. As you recall, we are converting the driveway from full access to right in, right out on Main Street, Fishers Road. We have gotten some correspondence from the owner of Denny's and P. Vars, their engineer. Initially, I responded to that, and they have an easement. That easement gives them rights to that driveway, but not any configuration of that driveway. So simply, they have no legal rights to us converting it from right in to right out. I did get a letter at 5:14, and I've been doing this 20 years. I typically don't dump on people when they show up to a meeting, not the way I do business. But it appears that what they do want is cross-access, and we have no issue giving them cross-access. So if that's the desire, to have cross-access over our road, like we did to the Taco Bell and the hotel on the other side, we have no opposition to that. So we will give cross-access. Besides that, stormwater has been designed to comply with all the regulations. Your engineer has reviewed it. The stormwater pond is designed to accommodate the drainage for Denny's and the rest of the site. All the other changes remain the same. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said, I'm trying to discern from this plan, what is the cross-access? It looks like the plan shows Denny's coming right into the road that comes from Main Street Fishers and cuts across.
They don't have the legal right to the rest of the road. So legally, their rights are to the driveway.
Uh-huh.
And it appears, from what I can tell from the 514 letter, is they would like rights over the entire road so they can access the other driveways on site, because you have a driveway up to 96.
So physically, you've laid it out appropriately for
Yes.
that right.
Yeah.
It's just you need a legal document that says they have the right to go across that section of road that's part of,
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, you and I both know that people are going to drive there anyway, if we
Right.
learn from the Denny's or anything else. But typically, there are easements that are recorded, or we can take as a condition of approval. I gave as a condition of approval for Taco Bell and I said my taco last time, but Taco Bell and the hotel. So we have no issue giving it to Denny's parcel.
I could imagine if the property was going to be redeveloped. They would want that anyway, so it sounds to me like it's going to work for everyone.
We're a vehicular-driven use, so
Sure.
more cars are better for us. So it's not an issue. Easier for people to get their cars washed. If there's another use there, it works for us. So it appears to be, that's reading the 514 email, that's what they want. We have no problem granting that.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Yep. That's it.
Oh, okay. Any questions from the board?
I appreciate the architecture upgrades and the addressing the comments from the board over the last year.
Yep. Yeah. I think we've addressed them all at this point.
I'd like to hear from Denny's engineer, if that, like to hear from Denny's engineer to know if that proposal satisfies the concerns.
Good evening. Peter Vars from BME Associates. With me also is Greg Barkstrom from LaChase Development Services. They are now the owner of the Denny's property. Based on what we heard this evening, that is acceptable, because that is, in the simplest form, is all we were requesting, is that with this site plan application, that as required under the Access Management, Chapter 50 of the code, and the Route 296-251 overlay district requirements of shared access easements, that with this modification being proposed, that there was going to be a hardship created on the Denny's parcel. We agree, or I should say, we agree with their interpretation that that they had the right to reconfigure that driveway. We were not disputing that or questioning that. It was just the fact that by doing it, it was going to be creating a hardship. So we were just asking that the board, through the other provisions of the town code, made sure that access was provided out. And as he mentioned, he's exactly correct. We all know people would likely do it anyways. We just have to make sure, on behalf of the Denny's property owners, that their rights are protected, that they do have that access out to 96. So based on what he has entered into the record this evening, that is that they will provide that if that just appears in the conditions of the resolution or whatever, that satisfies the concerns of the property owner of the Denny's parcel. Okay?
Great.
Great. And Greg or I are here if you have any questions about that parcel also.
Actually, I do have a question. So is there any immediate plans to do some grass cutting and some trimming of the property, since it's the gateway into the town?
Yeah, so we closed, I'll say it was 8 days ago on
Yes,
this.
name
And Greg Barkstrom, LaChase Development Services, the owner of the property. It'll be mowed by the end of the week.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
that's the plan.
Any other questions from the board? If not, anybody from the public besides Mr. Vars have anything to say or ask? Not heard anything. I think we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Joe Logan moves.
Second.
Scott Harder seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Okay. Wes?
Thanks, Ernie. So just a quick follow-up to some of the concerns that we had. I just want to be sure that the planning board is satisfied, for example, with the architecture and the color sample that you've received tonight. So I've prepared a portion of part 2 of the EAF. I haven't handed it out, but I can put it up on the screen, and I was just looking for some assistance with your comments on architecture specifically, just to make sure that we've crossed our Ts, dotted our Is, and are prepared for a potential resolution at the next meeting. Because we don't have a resolution prepared for tonight, but I think based on the information that we've received recently from CPL, the traffic consultant for the town, signing off and appearing to be satisfied with all of the traffic information, your sign off on you're okay with architecture, and also following up on the details for the cross-access easement for the Denny's parcel, I think we're likely prepared for a resolution at the next meeting. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind switching the screen, and I'll try to scroll through this. We won't labor through this part 2 of the EAF, as most of the results, most of the answers for the impacts to the various environmental resources are, some are, I've checked off as yes, there is an impact, but they are, the underlying questions are generally marked off as there is no impact or small to moderate impact. So that's the case with impact on land. Impact on geological features, I've indicated that no, there are no potential, no impacts there. Impacts on surface water, while yes, there are some impacts to the surface water, all of the sub-questions are checked off at this point as being no or small impact may occur. Impact on groundwater, no impact on groundwater. Impact on flooding, or lands subject to flooding, I've indicated no. Impact on air, we've indicated no. Impact on plants and animals, well, yes, there is going to be an impact on plants and animals, but we've indicated that very small to moderate impact in that regard. Impact on agricultural resources would be no. Impact on aesthetic resources, we've indicated no. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, we've impacted no, or we've indicated no. Impact on open space and recreation, again, no. Impact on critical environmental areas, indicated no. Impact on transportation, while I've left this one blank, waiting for the input from CPL, I think we can resolve that if there are impacts, they are likely no to small, based on, this most recent letter dated June 13th, 2022. So I can complete that. Impact on energy, I have yet to complete that question. Impact on noise, odor, and light, yes, there is going to be impact on noise and potentially lighting as well. Impact on human health, we've indicated no. Consistency with community plans, we've indicated that it is consistent, even though this is checked off as no, we are indicating that it is consistent with community plans. And then the last one, I just wanted to make sure that the planning board is satisfied. Consistency with community character. One of the sub-questions is the proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character of the neighborhood. So assuming that, I guess I'll let you guys chime in as a board if you have any concerns with architecture. If not, then probably okay.
No, you're the architecture guy.
One of them. Well, as I indicated to James, I appreciated the updates that they did to the building architecture, specifically with the brick and the other materials that they have changed to after our comments regarding the look of some of the other facilities that Delta Sonic has in the area. I noted downtown, but I think there's others that have similar scale architecture as well. As far as the scale of the buildings themselves, we have hotels and things like that in the area that are all larger and similar heights, I guess. So it's not out of scale, I don't think. So in that regard, I'm satisfied with the architecture of the buildings and the scale of the structures there.
Any other comments from the board?
I agree with Joe generally. I was curious, we saw a nice display of what the facility looks like with the video clip. I was wondering if we might be able to look at what it appears to be at nighttime with the lighting that you've proposed, if you have that technology, or could show us something.
I think we can. I didn't get up, I'll get up. I think we can. I know we can do the renderings that way, individual. We might be able to run the simulation that way also. I can't promise that. I've never seen it done at dark. But we can certainly do the renderings, pull the sides out and turn off the lights and see what it looks like, but we can do that.
You are going to have internal lighting, so to Scott's point about
Yeah.
the amount of glass around there, especially that particular building you just featured, it was,
It is all downward shielded lighting, and our facility closes at 9 o'clock, and by 9:30, lights are out.
everything inside goes out
Yep,
with except of security or
Security
whatever.
lighting. So it's not a fully lit site. The nice thing about Delta Sonic is they're not open late. So I can see if we can run that, but they're also unlike Victor Crossing, where you could see into the top of it. I know that was always an issue. There is no viewing down into this at this point. Everything is below it. So we believe with the downward shield lighting, the brick, all the brick, you're really not going to see any of that. But I'll see what I can do. I just haven't seen it done that way. I think we do. I just don't want to promise.
I'd be curious, because of the type of building that you're proposing and whatever perimeter lighting they're offering as well, I'd like to,
Yeah.
if lighting control is important, and I think it is, I'd like to be able to see that.
We did submit a photometric plan with the project. We meet all the town's requirements. All the lights are downward shielded, night sky compliant, which comply with your code. And at the property lines, because we went over this with the building inspector when we originally filed it, everything meets code. So we are meeting code through the entire site for lighting. And we did submit the photometric plan. I know Wes has that.
Yes.
So to Scott's point about security lighting and overnight lighting, I guess it would be helpful to understand what lights go out, what lights stay on.
Yep.
Just like in the Chevy dealer down the road.
Yep.
We asked them to scale it all down at night.
And like perimeter lighting, if you have some type of strip lighting, I think you're the same company that has the mall or the cobblestone, right? Aren't you?
That's not us.
That's not you.
At Victor Crossing.
Victor Crossings, I'm sorry, is Victor Crossings
Yes.
you? Well, for example, the neon appearing type of light that's encircling the EV units that are there, I'd be
Yep.
curious to know if you're proposing anything like that with this project.
Okay, I don't believe so, but I could check.
James, would you also maybe be able to elaborate on solar panel technology for the rooftops here? Is my understanding that there's going to be some solar panels on top of some of the roofs?
Yes, there are.
Okay. Like for the number of buildings, is each building going to have a solar panel on top?
The two buildings that were previously greenhouses are now brick. They have solar panels on the sides that are more, was it south facing? Whatever side you put they're on the plans. I just,
Detail shop, it looks like
yeah.
it might be one of those.
It's the detail shop and the pre-vacuum interior building will both have their solar panels on them.
Okay. So although the ceilings are glass in some instances, that glass ceiling is also going, or roof.
It's going to be covered by solar panels.
It's gonna be covered by
Half-
solar
Half the roof, for all intents and purposes, is solar panel, so you're only looking at half the roof is really glass.
Okay.
I think architecturally it's not out of whack, really, but, I mean, that area is what it is. It's not really contrary to it, it's different, I'll give you that.
If it were that architecture but double the size of each building, then I would say that would not fit. But, I mean, you have, like I said, you've got hotels all in the area that are pretty large buildings.
Well, they had to fit it to the property. They couldn't be any bigger than
Right.
it is. Is
Okay.
it bulletproof?
I don't know. Should I be worried?
Town history there.
Okay,
He's thinking of the Exit 45 motel some years ago, and
okay.
things that went on back then.
We've had none of those issues at Delta.
Glad to hear that.
Okay.
No overnight stays, Ernie.
So Ernie, what I would propose that I do, at least on behalf for the board, to prepare for the board, would be to somehow provide a final draft of parts 2 and 3 of the EAF, maybe some reasoned elaboration, right? Some narrative that would go along with some of these check boxes, the answers. And I think we can rely on, maybe if James has some additional documents, if he's able to provide some form of rendering, as he's described here, we can talk about those in the EAF if necessary, and then prepare some draft resolutions for consideration at the next meeting, if you guys are ready, based on the new information that comes from James.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. I think we're in agreement.
Thank you very much.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Anything else from Wes?
Not at this time, nope.
Okay. And we'll see you at the next meeting by Zoom, I guess?
Yeah,
You don't have to make the trip this time.
I love the trip.
I'm sure you do.
As long as there's not a snowstorm involved.
I love the trip during the warmer months.
Yeah.
very much.
This is Crown Castle, DBA Verizon. Public hearing on this is closed. This is 04 SU 2022. It's at 90 Baker Road. It's zoned residential 2. The owner is Pinnacle Towers. Tax map number 1.02-1-24.000. Applicant is requesting approval to install 3 antennas and 1 hybrid cable on an existing wireless facility. There you go.
Hi, good evening. Brian Tempio with MB&C. I'm representing Verizon Wireless and Crown Castle, the owner of the tower. And we're back here again because the board had asked us to provide a compliance report. Verizon took it upon themselves to do a comprehensive report where they took all the existing antennas that are on the tower, including their own and their proposed 3 antennas. So, does that satisfy the board? Has anybody had a chance to look at it, or do you have questions? And I also brought Mike Crosby here. He's the RF radio frequency engineer with Verizon Wireless, and he can answer any questions regarding this report.
Okay, well, there were comments at one point in time from one of the nearby residents about the effect on the human body. What can you tell us about that?
Again, Mike Crosby, Verizon Wireless, RF engineer. It's a pleasure to be back before you again. I know it's been a couple months, so I miss y'all. So what I can tell you is that we currently operate an existing wireless facility at this location. So Verizon has and operates an existing on-air site. And what we're doing is we're adding 3 antennas that are capable of additional frequencies that we're now licensed for by the FCC. And so the FCC maintains the exclusive right to regulate what's called RFE. It's the RF energy that is emitted from the antennas. Our normal process that we've followed here is to provide a compliance report, which we did early on. And recently, because we were requested for some additional information, we had a third-party report generated that goes into detail to discuss that the RF emissions at this site are going to be less than 1% of the maximum permissible energy at the closest point that you could access the site. That's 100 times less than the permissible level, which is a conservative level that's used in the what we call OET Bulletin 65B, which is part of the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which established the rules that we follow for RF emissions. So the site is perfectly safe. We've followed our normal procedure. We have third-party reports confirming this. There's nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever.
We received a letter from a law firm down in Merrick, New York. I don't know if you've seen it at all. I provided it to the board last week. Did you get it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago? Really? Okay. I don't know anything about this. Have you seen this at all?
No, but I haven't, but I can guess who it's from. There's certain folks that in this business that like to make money off of disruption, if that's who it is.
Well, this is from an attorney, Andrew J. Campanelli.
Yeah.
Familiar with that name, I guess?
Very familiar.
Campanelli and Associates, PC, attorneys and counselors, 1757 Merrick Avenue, Suite 204, Merrick, New York. Do you have any comment about him?
You know, I'm an engineer, not an attorney, so I'd like to reserve any comments that I may have in that regard, other than to just advise the board that Verizon has followed all of the appropriate procedures to provide documentation regarding this. RF emissions, again, is exclusively regulated by the FCC. It's not regulated by local municipalities. And so we've followed our process, and there is one more part of the OET Bulletin 65B that I should mention, which is that we are categorically excluded from further review once we provide a proof of our compliance, which we've done. That's the rules, so that they're known. And we're here to try to help answer questions if we can. We don't rely on those rules. We're here to try to help explain anything if it's possible to do that.
What does the letter say, Ernie? Is it?
We sent it along to you, you didn't get it?
No, I didn't get it. Is this your attorney or is it
Oh,
somebody
no,
else?
no, this is,
seen the letter.
My
West was
guess-
Out of the blue.
Ernie, maybe you could clarify, but my guess is that that was not a letter specific to this particular application.
Correct.
Okay. And I've seen letters of that nature previously, and my understanding is that they are used to help, it's kind of like an advertisement, right? An FYI to municipalities, maybe in various parts of the state, which might help drum up business for that particular attorney or firm.
In fact, it says right at the head of the letter,
Okay.
advertising.
Okay.
I think relative to your presentation, what was a little different for the board was we had two applications simultaneously, or a meeting apart, on, I think, the same tower with the same type of replacement as you're proposing. And we had a resident come to us and indicate potential health issues that he had experienced by living close by. So I think that's the reason why we've asked the questions and tried to get the answers. I should tell you, if you don't know already, that that applicant was in 2 weeks ago, and we approved their request, as I believe we will likely approve yours. For me, as a board member, the important item was to check into the health component of these electronic features, and so I went to the American Cancer Society website to check in on this, because I think if anyone were to know about health issues relative to what you do, I understand that you're meeting an FCC spec or whatever it is, that's wonderful. But I think relative to health, I might look to some other avenue for information. And they indicated there was no definitive linkage that they could come up with. And I think if anybody could, they could. So based on that, I was in favor of moving the application on down the line.
Thank you.
Else? Nope, nobody?
No, I
Okay. Well-
appreciate Scott's looking into that too, and
Yeah, I mean, I feel when, we have a role here, and when a citizen comes before us and tells us and can verify what he's saying, I think we owe it to the public to do our due diligence as well as you do yours.
Right. To that particular concern, the frequencies and power that our system operates at is very, very low. It's relatively low compared to many other wireless type facilities. Our frequencies and power is what's called non-ionizing RF energy. What that means is it's different. It's a lower frequency than X-rays or gamma rays or ultraviolet rays. So we're operating a completely different range of the wireless spectrum, and it's in the maximum effect that it's capable of is heating and cooling of cellular tissue. And the highest energy that you're going to experience is from using your cell phone, not from the tower itself.
Okay.
So those are just important things to keep in mind. Another important note that we've found helpful to boards is in areas where we don't have a site and we're adding one, something to keep in mind is that after we've added the new site, when this concern is made known, it's important to note that your phone being used in those weak RF areas has to power up. And remember, the phone is where you're going to receive your maximum energy exposure. When we add the new site, or in this case, as we enhance the site with these improved services, it's going to allow the phone to actually power down and reduce your actual exposure using the device. So just an interesting perspective when you look at both sides of that
I
discussion.
appreciate that.
Sure.
I did not realize that the power output would adapt to the strength of the signal, is what you're
Does,
saying,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's very common. This is a conversation we have typically with schools when there's concern, parents have concerns, or the school boards have concern about, having service in the schools. Obviously, the kids are going to be using the phones whether they're supposed to or not, but the good news is when we do have adequate and reliable service in those locations and adequate signal strength, the phones actually are able to power down, so ultimately you're actually lowering that RF for the folks using the devices.
So there is nothing emanating from the tower itself that would affect somebody.
There's nothing from the tower structure, the steel.
Well,
Is that
the
what-
tower structure was on it.
What's on, yeah, there's nothing there. And so we've inventoried everything that's on the tower. And this most recent report that we've submitted is a comprehensive report for everything added together. And we're still less than 1% at the ground level, so it's an ideal scenario, to say that.
Al or Wes, anything?
No questions.
Wes, anything?
The only thing that I'd like to say is that it's, you know, I've learned a lot through this process, and we did review the report here, and it's very illuminating, right? I appreciate the work that you've put in to help this planning board make the decision.
Yeah,
Certainly.
yeah, thank you. It has-
It's an ideal scenario for us if it's an educational type of a interaction where we can try to help share information, and it's not always that particular scenario, so thank you for that. It's helpful for us as well to be in that environment.
Is there anything else?
No.
If not, we have a resolution. For the Crown Castle DBA Verizon Wireless, 90 Baker Road, today's date 6/14/22, application number 04SU 2022. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 9. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Janet Spatafora, Crown Castle on behalf of Verizon for a special use permit received by the planning board on March 3, 2022, planning board application number 04SU 2022 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. That no final signatures will be given on the plans until all legal and engineering fees have been paid as per fee reimbursement local law adopted November 25, 1996. And the ongoing conditions, there are 2 of them, that the site plan comply with the town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including section 4, and that a building permit be obtained before installation of antennas begins. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. We have a motion on this.
I'll move it.
Scott moves to approve. Second.
I'll second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Next is, well, it's BCI parking expansion, but that's been withdrawn. And the next one would be auction direct pavement expansion, and that's removed until the next meeting. Next is the straight pole barn, S12 SP 2022, 7479 Dryer Road, zoned residential 2. Owner Stephen and Patricia Straight. Tax map number 27.01-1-70.200. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 36-foot by 36-foot pole barn with a lean-to on one side of the proposed barn on the southeast corner of the parcel. I believe this is before us because it's forward of the house.
Oh, that's the other one.
Size?
That's right. Okay, anybody here to speak for that?
I'm Steve Straight, so I just wondered what all your questions were and if there is any.
Well, in our materials,
Wood construction.
excuse me?
Wood construction.
Yeah. Yeah, what is our materials that we have to read about this
Oh.
project?
You have 'em.
Anybody from the board have any questions on this?
There were some questions maybe by the Conservation Board as to whether you were removing trees. Are you removing trees?
No tree removal.
There were questions about the drainage. Does the site, I think, drain to the south?
No, it drains to the east.
And it's at a...
Pretty flat, and it drains to the east.
At an elevation that drains positively in that direction then?
Yeah.
Okay. And you approximated the dimensions here on the survey drawing?
I measured them.
I'm familiar with the surveyor who did that drawing.
Sure.
We used to work together.
Right.
I have no more questions.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Al, anything?
No questions.
Joe?
Nope. Good job, Steve.
Wes, you have anything?
It's been a process.
Uh-huh.
Labella doesn't have any comments, no.
Any comment from members of the public? Hearing nothing, we'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Who moved?
Al moves.
Al
I'll
moved.
second.
Joe seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Any final questions from the board? Not hearing anything, and we have a resolution. It's for the straight pole barn of 7479 Dwyer Road. Today's date, 6/14/22. Application number 12 SP 2022. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 7. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Patricia and Steve Straight, site plan entitled Straight Pole Barn, received by the planning board May 20, 2022, planning board application number 12 SP 2022 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. 1, that no final signatures will be given on the plans until all legal and engineering fees have been paid as per fee reimbursement local law adopted November 25, 1996. 2, that any exterior lighting be compliant to code and approved by the code enforcement officer. Ongoing conditions, number 1, that the site plan comply with the town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including section 4. Number 2, that a building permit be obtained before the start of construction. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. There's a motion in this.
Move.
Scott moves it.
A second.
Second is Joe.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you're all set. You stick around for the rest of the program if you want, or? Oh, okay. This is the Galen Garage, 13 SP 2022. It's 7483 Dwyer Road, it's zone residential 2. Owner is Christian and Kimberly Galen. Tax map number 27.01-1-70.100. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 1,200 square foot steel detached garage forward of the house. And who is here for that? Come on up.
Hi.
Your
I'm
name?
sorry?
Your name?
My name is Christian Galen.
And you live at 7483 Dwyer Road, I take it?
I do?
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about this barn being forward of the house?
Yeah, really, it was just the only suitable place that I could find on the property to have the building erected. The property is very hilly, and ideally, if I could have had it behind the house, that would have been great, but first of all, the grade is pretty steep back there. Second of all, it would have required a lot of additional pavement, which, you know, I really don't want to just pave all over the property. I want to keep the paving to a minimum. The driveway is already very long as it is. And it would require the least grading as well as no removal of any trees or anything. In fact, I intend to add trees and landscaping once the building is complete.
Could you go back to that aerial? So as we look at that, this garage would be to the left of the house?
Yes, and actually, that drawing is inaccurate. That was the original plan, but the site is actually closer to the house by, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 feet closer to the house.
There's a pointer on your podium if you wanna, like a laser.
Oh, thank
Yep,
you.
You can just point.
So really, it's going to be right about here, not over here. And again, it's going to require the least amount of grading, the least amount of paving, and we'll have the least impact on the property. In addition, the grade is quite a bit lower than the house, so it will actually reduce the size, at least from a viewing perspective. It'll make the building look smaller rather than being on a grade above the house, which would make it look bigger. There's also a lot of buffering. As you can see, the blue spruce trees that basically border my property, those face the road and would definitely impede someone being able to see the garage from the road. It's also about 437 feet from the road, so it's quite a distance. And it's another 100 feet to my neighbor that's adjacent to me to the east. Yep. East.
So that arrow pointing down is going to be pushed more toward the house.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be closer, like I said, probably 30, 40 feet, if I had to guess, maybe a little bit more, but it would be right about here.
Between those two.
Yeah, right between those two trees. And, the only thing I plan to use it for is to store some old cars. I like to tinker with old cars, so I've been wanting to do it since I was 17 years old. And we do have a lot of garage space, but we also have 5 children.
Well, you
And
never
so-
have enough space.
I'm sorry? Yeah, right. Well, that and with all the bikes and ride-on toys and Lord knows what that we have in the garages, I just don't have any room to do what I've been waiting to do for 36 years. Or 31 years, excuse
Well,
me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Al, you have anything?
No, I see they've already been granted a variance for the structure being forward of the home, so I have no questions or comments.
Joe?
I think it's a conspiracy between the streets. And you got the 2 barns right in between each house. That's fine. I have no problem with it.
Thank you.
John?
Hey, Ernie, just would be curious if the neighbors have any questions or comments?
Yeah, well, they
No,
haven't opened it up yet, but
Yeah,
they will.
I guess this is what's happening on Dryer Road these days.
lots of barns.
It looks like you're across the driveway from your septic system, so there's no conflict with that, right?
Exactly. The septic system's on the opposite side.
And you got the variance from the zoning board of appeals, so
Yes.
I have no questions or issues.
Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak?
I mean, it's a deep flag lot, so.
For an hour.
You'd have to stand up here for an hour, though, Steve.
Okay, nothing more from the public. Have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
So moved. Second. Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. And we do have a resolution for you. For the Galen Garage, 7483 Dryer Road. Today's date, 6/14/22, application number 13-SP 2022. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 8, including a reference to the area variance granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on June 6, 2022, due to the accessory structure forward of the front line of the primary structure. Now therefore it be resolved that the application of Christian Galen, site plan entitled Galen Garage, received by the planning board May 2022, planning board application number 13SP 2022 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1, that no final signatures will be given on the plans until all legal and engineering fees have been paid as per fee reimbursement local law adopted November 25, 1996. 2, that any exterior lighting to be compliant with code and approved by the code enforcement officer. Ongoing conditions, number 1, that the site plan comply with the Town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including Section 4. 2, that a building permit be obtained before the start of construction, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. We have a motion?
A second.
Scott moves, Joe seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
We have next a preliminary application for Stonebrook subdivision. It's a 02 PS 2022, 1403 East Victor Road, Zone Residential 2. Owner is Bruce Desimone. Tax map number 28.04-2-62.000. Applicant is requesting approval for a clustered subdivision of 85 buildable lots on 100 acres in the town of Victor with 15-plus acres in the town of Farmington, for a total of 115 acres. This is the second step in a 3-step process for a major subdivision. The sketch plan was acknowledged complete on March 22nd, 2022. Proceed.
Yeah, good evening. Lucas Bushin from Marathon Engineering. As you mentioned, we've been here for about a year now when we first came talking about the density of the parcel, and now we're at preliminary design. There's a number of things that have changed, and I'll just sort of quickly run through those since this board has last seen it. The stormwater management facility, which was originally in the center island, if we could flip back to that overall, is originally showing up back behind these lots, and there was a strip of town accessible land in there. And we eliminated that and moved it over out to here so that there's essentially one location that treats all of this stormwater. And the ownership of this land is, it's up in the air right now. That's sort of been a discussion. We went to the town board to see if the town would be interested in owning all this land across Mud Creek. This is the Victor Farmington town line, so there is some portion in Farmington. But that ultimately the town of Victor wasn't interested in it. The Parks Department didn't want additional land, so we've explored some other options, and one of them is land trust. Also, the Victor Hiking Trails they have an entity capable of accepting dedicated land, so those two options we're still aggressively pursuing, rather than carving it up and giving it to individual owners in conservation easements. We think that there's a benefit to the town and to the residents, future residents of the subdivision, having that land be still in one piece and potentially accessible to the public, because there's some trails back through there. So that's one element of the project that we're waiting for it to be ironed out. But this pond would ultimately have to be on a piece of property with an easement dedicated to the town, so that the town doesn't own it but can access it for maintenance should anything happen. The same would be true for, there's a small recharge basin up on the north end of the site. This cul-de-sac is lower than the rest of the roadway, so this drainage from here on goes to a small recharge basin. The rest of the design is similar to how it's been. You've got the two connection points on East Victor Road and one connection point on Sunray Crest. The sewer throughout the whole subdivision drains to Sunray Crest connection. And we also cut off some drainage here on the west side of the property that was flowing towards Fieldcrest Lane. So if you look at the design plans, there's a swale and an inlet back in those yards that takes it over this way. So we cut off about 15 acres of drainage that goes towards those rear lots.
So the Auburn Trail defines the southern border.
Essentially,
See
yeah.
it? Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah. So right now there is a conservation land in between the residences and that Auburn Trail to the south. So whether this is privately owned, or likely this portion of the conservation land will be privately owned, but we'd like to take this portion and give it to some entity that will maintain public access. Other than that, we've received some comments from Wes. I met with Wes and Labella a couple weeks ago just to go over what's changed and some of the engineering details. We received his comments and Mary's comments. Water Authority has commented on it. Farmington Sewer. So we're working to address those comments. In my mind, there's nothing significant, but if there's any additional comments that the board has, I'd like to talk about those and address those now.
I would just comment, there's a staff comment here that says, is waiting for Ontario County comments. I get what they meet next week?
I think it's next week. Or is it this week?
Tomorrow.
Wow, okay.
They usually have a whole lot to say.
Can I just ask that the board leave the public hearing open? I had accidentally mislabeled the postcards that went out to the residents for sketch. So they had the wrong date. They had March 22nd. So, yes. And not today's date. So there were a couple that asked that the public hearing be left open so they can have a time on the next meeting.
We could do
I
that.
apologize, Jeff.
Do they know it's Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Finished?
Yeah, that's really all I have.
Okay,
If there's
anything
any
from the board?
questions.
I'll be interested to hear about the Victor Hiking Trail's interest in that
David is
parcel.
here.
It sounds like Dave Wright was getting ready to get up and do something, but, no, I think the flow that they've proposed, having the connection to Sunray Crest, makes a whole lot more sense than the first one I saw, I think. So,
Yeah, that one had the pond in the middle of the circle.
yeah, nothing.
Anything?
No questions at this time.
Yeah, Scott?
I just wanted to refresh my memory, the connection to Sunray Crest, that helps the other subdivision as well in terms of traffic circulation. Didn't we talk about that last time?
Yeah, there's a turnaround in the front driveway, the dead end there. This parcel to the north has got a turnaround.
And that's kind of a dead-end street at present, right? That
Correct.
wouldn't technically comply with the
Yeah.
current fire code.
Exactly. In my mind, from the engineering standpoint, it improves public access and emergency vehicle access.
That parcel has a huge turnaround hammerhead, or whatever you want to call it. It
Yeah, so-
could go away, I assume.
Would be obsolete when we make that connection, which would be, I should mention, it would be in section 1, as it's currently proposed. So section 1 would include this roadway connection and connect to there. And then this loop would be a future section.
So that does have sidewalks in it. I'm looking at Google Earth on Sunray Crest. That dead ends at that turnaround.
Mhm.
Would that then be part of this project to remove that turnaround, seed it, and extend the sidewalk through to this development?
It'd be a question of who can access that,
It appears to be on public right-of-way.
right?
It's dedicated
Yeah.
to the town.
So,
Highway superintendent would like it to go away.
yeah. So I'm all for that, because it's a lot of pavement sitting there, would never be used.
In his comments
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would advocate for that as well, so.
Are you proposing sidewalks?
Yeah, there's a sidewalk throughout the whole subdivision, each of these loop roads. And we also extended it to connect to Auburn Trail.
Now, Sunray Crest has sidewalks on both sides of the road. So would you be extending those two sidewalks through?
We'll extend it on one side, yeah.
One side?
Yeah.
That's your proposal?
Is the center area where you showed the pond before, that's just a swale now? Is that
Yeah.
for runoff reduction, or what is that for there?
We are using it for runoff reduction, but it's also a necessary, otherwise it'd be piped all through there. Really, the grading didn't work to put a pond in there. There's quite a bit of grade difference between that road to the south and the road to the north.
Are the soils conducive to runoff reduction? Are they porous soils, or?
There are some okay soils, there's some B-type soils, predominantly in this sort of southeast region. Up here, as you can kind of see if you look at the aerial, it's a little bit wetter up here, and those soils are more of a D-type. So with the D-type soils, you don't get that much from a vegetated swale, but it's still a good practice, because it's filtering through something as opposed to in a pipe. So we're not getting all that much credit from that.
And then the other pond is largely for just throttling the flows and releasing
Yeah.
them into the creek?
Yeah, that large pond is your typical stormwater management facility.
Your prior project on Willis Hill, I think you had really sandy soils there, right?
Yeah.
Did a nice job of taking care of that. That's all I have.
David, anything?
David Wright, 33 Ketchum Street. Here representing Victor Hiking Trails. I want to reiterate that we are very much interested in keeping that as one parcel. We hope that we can work something, we hope that the developer can work something out with the land trust. If they don't, they can't work that out reasonably, it would be something new for Victor Hiking Trails, but we've looked at some other trail groups that do own land, and we don't see it as a problem. So that's something that we can pursue if necessary. Regardless of...
Me purchasing?
Pardon me?
Or taking title to that land?
They would, hopefully, they would donate it to Victor Hiking Trails. We don't have a very big budget, so They
I
would
anticipate they would, yeah.
hopefully donate it to us. One of the things that we haven't looked into with all the attorneys and code is if they were to donate it to Victor Hiking Trails as a separate parcel, would the developers still be paying the recreation fee every time a house is sold? We certainly don't want to take money away from the town by doing this, and I think, we certainly hope that we would be able, either the land trust or Victor Hiking Trails would be able to take ownership of the property, and the builder would still be paying the recreation fee, because obviously it's a limited amount of recreation for that area there. It doesn't necessarily benefit every citizen in the town like a recreation fee does.
Is Victor Hiking Trails,
Pardon me?
how is that organized? Is it,
How is Victor Hiking Trail organized? We're a 501c3, we are incorporated, and we are tax exempt, if you will.
okay,
So,
that was my curiosity. Thank you.
and Adam, who's here tonight, but Adam submitted a letter to you, it was just today, so we missed the deadline for the submission. There were a lot of things going on last week between Victor Hiking Trails 30-year celebration, somebody being on vacation, and someone being exposed to COVID and not being able to get this letter to you in time. So you probably won't see it till next week sometime, but,
Was it emailed?
did you email?
Oh, okay.
Email it, just
Late
today.
tonight?
like-
Okay.
Like this morning. So we missed the mark on that, but basically it says that, trails are important. We all realize that we would like to have more trails. This is a prime location for trails, what with Mud Creek and the wooded area, some open fields. It would be a benefit to certainly the people that would live in this neighborhood, but also to the citizens of Victor. The second thing that, another thing that it mentions is that even though this rendition shows trails on it, some of the trails show it close to the creek in the floodplain, and not desirable to have a trail in the floodplain. Maybe seasonal for 9 months out of the year, but not all of the year. So we would like to be able to make sure that whoever owns the property, we have ability to put the trail where it makes sense, and that would be not in the floodplain. Lastly, we did notice sidewalks on one side. I think it's on the inner houses around the circle, and extending over to the existing roads and extending over to the Auburn, which is very desirable. But we also thought it would be beneficial to the people in the existing neighborhood if the sidewalk was extended beyond, on East Victor Road, beyond this development over to the next road, which is Field Crest Lane. And I think that's a wide enough highway, right-of-way, that the developer would be able to do that. So instead of stopping at the proposed Riverstone Way, it would extend beyond that towards the north. I think that would be beneficial to the existing neighborhood for safe access to the Auburn Trail. One other thing, when we were looking at the trail where it shows going off the Auburn right now, that is in the floodplain. And it would be desirable to have the access from the Auburn to make a loop, and it would require a trail easement on some existing conservation easement on lots 43 through 49. So that's something that we'd like to, talk to the developer about, having access from the Auburn at that location. I think that was everything. Did I cover everything? So that's where we're headed,
All right.
okay?
You've had some conversations with the developer already?
Yeah, we've had exchanged a couple of emails with Mr. Smith, and they're still working on the land trust. If that doesn't work out, then we'll have some further discussions.
Hey, Dave, how does this work with the parcel that's in Farmington?
If whoever ends up with the land trust, I'm sure they have to work with the town of Farmington. Town of Farmington might be interested in some trails to connect with Mertensia Park. I don't know. I mean, there is
That's what
that old
Auburn
trolley
does.
that goes across the creek that someday somebody might want to have a bridge to connect there. Not sure that Mertensia Park goes all the way down to the abutment. It might be some private property involved there.
I mean, you do have the Auburn Trail that goes into Mertensia Park, so that's your
Oh, it
connection.
does, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I guess that you'd be looking to see if there was some other loop connection. Mertensia really only goes a couple hundred feet in,
Right.
and then it's other lands in the town of Farmington.
And Victor Hiking Trails has not had any discussions with town of Farmington. I mean, we're letting the developer take the lead on that.
Okay.
But right now, the property is owned by the current owner, and we would still hope that one entity would end up with the entire parcel.
Okay.
Jeff, you have anything you want to add to this?
Good evening, Jeff Smith with Woodstone Custom Homes. Just a couple of points. One, our intention of keeping the green space in a contiguous manner has partly to do with the fact that it is most accessible from the Farmington area where Mertensia Park is located, and the existing trailhead that's shown on the map actually is, as shown on the map, in the town of Farmington. As you move to the west along the Auburn Trail towards our subdivision, the terrain changes fairly substantially, and there is fairly high levels of hill areas in there, which will make additional trails possibly prohibitive. I probably would not fully support a trail in the backyard of those lots that parallel Auburn Trail, but we can certainly look into that. Also, another matter is I wouldn't support a sidewalk from Fieldcrest to our subdivision. That is a benefit to that street. It doesn't have much to do with us. It would cost us between $25,000 and $50,000. Sidewalks on a 100-foot wide lot cost about $5,000 per lot. So that's one of the reasons why we're proposing only one-sided sidewalk, so we can have somewhat affordable lots. The other, which Dave raised, which admittedly I had never thought of, there was never any intention of using parkland against recreation fee. Our intent of trying to donate the land at no cost to whoever gets it was solely to have it a publicly accessible space. We have every intention of still being obligated to pay a recreation fee to the town of Victor. So that shouldn't be a suggestion that anybody takes from us. Although it was a great idea, but David, thank you, but it wasn't ever our intention. It wouldn't be our proposal. So I think we do have a meeting later this month. I think it's June 22nd or something like that, that Kim has been nice enough to set up between the two supervisors and Genesee Land Trust people. They have studied the property a fair amount. We had a field visit with them. They seem interested. I don't know what kind of conditions would go with it, and I've been clear to them if there are a lot of conditions, we probably will go to Dave and see what the Victor Hiking Trails would like to do. They raised a question of that they wanted it to be a partnership with the town, and to some extent, that's what Jack Marin had suggested, also a third party and some kind of cooperative event. So we'll see if that meeting, what Genesee Land Trust suggests. And our intent, as Lucas had mentioned, would be still to keep the pond areas in private ownership, putting them probably with the lots that are adjacent to the ponds. I know there's engineering comments that Wes was quite elaborate with. I asked Lucas whether BME gets as many comments as Lucas does. Now, I don't know, Wes, is that normal? But anyway, they were good. They were all good comments. Don't get me wrong. I just wondered. I said to my son Tim, I said, "Do you think BME gets as many comments?" I don't know. Anyway, on that point, we're very much looking forward to the project. If any questions while I'm up?
I have a question on the sidewalk connection that was proposed by Victor Hiking Trails. You said you objected due to the cost, but in my mind, I seem to recall that we gave you a higher density in this
Well,
process.
that was to largely, I think, right or wrong that happened in the year that it was put into a low-density parcel. The owners have been holding on to that land forever, hoping that someday it would gain its appropriate value, which we offered with a contingency that it got to be a higher density. There really isn't a whole lot of money to go around, quite honestly, when you look at the incredible cost of development these days. I think if you talk to the town engineer about the cost of sanitary sewer pump station rebuilding and everything else we do, it was never assumed that we would face that kind of off-site cost, simple as that.
So it would be approximately $30,000?
I would think so, at least, at my guesstimate of the lineal footage there. Yeah.
Relative to a lot cost would be, what, roughly a third of what one of those lots would go for?
Probably. Just one more thing, just like $5,000 for the sidewalks across the front of the lot is just one more thing. Eventually, you get to the point where it's not cost-effective, and quite honestly, that is why we ultimately had to market our Bluemont Rise subdivision to NVR Ryan, because they could make it work with volume from having national pricing and everything else. By the time we got done with all the off-site and on-site costs, it was way well beyond what the early estimates were. And that's what's happening with everything we're doing today. It's very expensive for development, and my honest opinion is that if Fieldcrest wants a sidewalk, then somebody, whether at the town level or Fieldcrest level, should pay for that sidewalk. We would be putting in sidewalks to benefit our subdivision and the density that we add. I also would question, I'm not sure how much Reedman has been donating in terms of sidewalks. So I think we're doing well in promising what we've offered.
We're having conversations with them, too.
Well, that's good, because they should do, if we're doing it, they should do it. But on the other hand, there's also a substantial shoulder on the, what would be the north side of East Victor Road as it connects to Fieldcrest. So that shoulder is not small. We've walked it several times with groups that we've shown the property to, so I just don't think it's necessary, and if somebody else thinks it's necessary, then they should research how to fund it.
Those are all the questions I have.
Wes, you have anything?
Well, yeah, I've got some comments.
Well, we knew that.
You're right.
As the applicant articulated, the length of our letter is, I don't know, getting up there, I suppose. We're just trying, we're trying to mold Lucas into a.
And I appreciate that.
I mean, he does a good job anyway.
He has done a good job, and he's grown greatly the last few years.
I will admit, sometimes we get a little wordy, right? So, number one, this is going to be a type 1 action under seeker. So we've prepared for your consideration a lead agency coordination resolution to kind of kick off the lead agency coordination process. Let's see, beyond that, one of the comments that we had was regarding traffic. And I would expect that maybe there'll be some residents coming in at a future date when the public hearing is kept open. So the New York State DEC guidance suggests using their particular land use table that's online for identifying whether or not there's the likelihood of a significant increase in traffic. And I think what they've identified in that table is that 95 single-family homes would generally result in greater than or equal to 100 peak hour trips. And that's the threshold that would suggest the need for a traffic impact analysis. So I don't know that in this particular case we need a full-blown traffic impact analysis, but I think the planning board would like to see some form of evaluation or some form of study short of a full-blown traffic impact analysis to identify whether or not traffic in that neighborhood, not only the neighborhood of Sunray Crest and Fieldcrest Lane, but also the surrounding street network, whether there's an adverse impact to some of the intersections, right? I think we recognize that there are instances where East Victor Road intersecting 96 can sometimes be problematic, and what is this subdivision going to do to that? That's identified in the Labella comment letter from June 10th. We're going to take a further look at the access management in terms of intersection spacing between the proposed roadways intersection with East Victor Road and the existing Fieldcrest Lane. And then with regard to Sunray Crest, Susie, could I have you switch over to my screen real quick? Just to get a zoomed in look at this Fieldcrest, or Sunray Crest.
I think they have the separation that they're supposed to have.
Property, that very well may be.
I think they've got 600 feet, and I think they need 450, something like that.
So this is the turnaround that I understand the highway superintendent wants to vacate, right? It's maybe I'll use my pointer up here. This property here, and you can see the right of way is nice and curved, smooth here, and then we've got this jog right where this turnaround is. So we just want to look at this as a potential opportunity to adjust that right of way boundary if necessary, if that's what the town would like, and take care of that turnaround. So that's the particular location we're looking at there.
How would you do that? I mean, I don't think they have control over that process, right?
The right-of-way adjustment, that would probably be between this property owner, the property owner here. Right, and the town.
That could be done at any time after they remove the hammerhead that's there now, the turnaround.
Yeah, probably. It doesn't necessarily have to coincide with this particular subdivision.
Right.
And as Lucas said, with the construction of Phase 1 of the Stonebrook subdivision, that would
go away.
Eliminate the need to have this turnaround here at this house.
And that was my point earlier, was take it out and have that, and because it's in town right away, the town has the ability to work with the developer it's not on another development, not on private lands.
Yeah.
So, and then if the town wants to deed, or to the homeowner, not back to them, but to the homeowner, that's their prerogative. It can still stay the way it is right now, but.
Right. You're 100% right, yeah.
So.
Okay. So, and as was noted, the existing subdivision has sidewalks, as you can see here, on both sides of the street. It's very common now for subdivision developments, especially in Victor, to have sidewalks on just one side of the street. One of the advantages of that is that you're reducing the amount of impervious surface, right? So that's one of the advantages of having sidewalks on one side of the street.
Then, and it's less maintenance for the town, since it's being deeded to the town.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I'm certainly in favor of that. If it was a busy road, that's another issue, but these are subdivisions.
You can flip it back. Yeah.
So,
Let's see, what other notable comments do I have in my letter from June 10th? Sunrise Cross soils, sidewalks. Oh, we did mention also in our town engineer letter about the sidewalks between Fieldcrest Lane and the proposed subdivision road, that it would be a meaningful connection, but we would defer to the planning board on that item. Some technical details. It looks like we're still waiting to receive the actual subdivision plat maps, which would have information such as, you know, the easement bearings and distances, monumentation, that sort of thing. So I think we're waiting for a couple more pieces of information to be able to complete, you know, the full piece of the preliminary subdivision plan set. So we'll wait for that. The demolition of the existing house, and I think I saw these comments maybe in code enforcement. There's an existing house right on the property. It's greater than 50 years old, and I'm not quite sure what the process is for needing to, you know, if there's planning board approval required for that demolition because it's over 50 years old. But I would defer to the town historian and town code enforcement officer on that issue.
Wes, regarding the connection to the Auburn Trail, I don't see pushing Fieldcrest Lane to Auburn, but I would see connecting this subdivision to the Auburn Trail, because we've asked Southgate in all three phases to hook up to the trail along the road.
Correct.
So as I understand that there's a wide shoulder there, just looking at Google Earth, you can see it, but I would say we should at least put a short section of sidewalk from the driveway where it ties in down to the Auburn Trail.
So that's actually part of their proposal now.
Okay, I'm
That's on
not
their
seeing
drawings.
it on the drawings that I have in front of me,
Yeah.
but if that's the case, that's great.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks, Jeff.
One item that we're reviewing with the town stormwater program manager is the ownership of the stormwater management facility. And as you can see here, the stormwater management facility is located on what may be owned by the land trust. And current thoughts at this moment are it might be easier because this project is going to enter into the town's drainage improvement area for future maintenance of the stormwater management facilities. It might be a bit easier administratively if these residential lots were extended over top of and surrounding the stormwater management facility itself, and not have the land trust own that stormwater management facility. So that's one of the items that we've detailed in our letter in comment 17, and also working with Keith Maynard on addressing. So
How do you handle the maintenance if you extend the property lines into the pond? Are the homeowners responsible for the pond then?
Not if the property is going to be in the town's drainage improvement area. So we would still require an access and maintenance easement over top of, or, you know, on a portion of those residential properties, so that the town has the ability to enter and maintain that facility.
Okay, so the town's going to ultimately be responsible for the maintenance of the stormwater?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So on Southgate 2, they had a separate hard surface to get to the back of that lot, or
Right.
that subdivision to get to the stormwater facility.
Right.
And here, are you suggesting cutting through people's parcels, or how would the town get there?
That might be the way that access would be provided, is in between the houses. Maybe the access easement is on two of the lots.
That's typically how it's done.
Yep.
That the Southgate 2 piece, that's not typical.
Yeah, I understand that, but these houses are, at least these lots are very small, very close together, at least the way the rectangles are laid out.
We'd have,
Might eliminate a lot. to,
We'd have the easement through an access easement between
You
those
got
lots.
20
I don't know.
feet between two houses. That's not really a very accessible lot or, way, right of way or whatever. Yeah.
I'd just point out that those lots are oversized to allow the sewer to go back there. There's currently additional 20 feet in between those lots.
Okay, so wherever the sewer, the connection from the drainage swale in between all those lots to that pond is where you're suggesting that would,
Correct.
is that a
Just the existence of
closed
the pipe.
drainage across that area?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we'll be flattening that out so that it can be driven back
Mhm.
in there. There's,
Would you have to do any kind of hardened surface? I'm not suggesting gravel, but, something that you have the right kind of soils, well compacted, and even if it's grass, you can drive over it without it turning to mush.
it'll be a 12-foot wide flat area
Mhm.
that can be driven over. I mean, these,
We also,
go ahead.
we also have mats, the town has mats that they put down
Okay.
when they go in and drive
right.
over the lawns.
Oh.
So they've purchased the mats, they've used them in many situations throughout the town already.
Yeah.
And they work great, they don't destroy anybody's property, and they
Okay.
just move them as they go.
All right, as long as we're all incorporating all that infrastructure accessibility into the project, then that's good. So that's all I had to that. Was.
All right, that's pretty much, there's a lot of technical items in our letter as well, but that's kind of the general overview of some of the flavor we have.
Just going back to the comment regarding ownership, it has been cleared to the Genesee Land Trust, and we did understand the town's position that this would be a carve-out area that would somehow have to be tied in with the existing lots. So we were hoping to design it in a way of not compromising too many lots, but it'll be 2 to 3 lots that will then own that facility, and as Kim and Lucas were saying, there'll be an access at the property line where the incoming pipe is coming from across the road. So I think we're set with that. With Genesee, they understand it. They mentioned that they didn't want to have that encumbrance on their property.
Okay.
So we're in full agreement with that.
All right, very good. Yeah, good. Sounds like we're all on the same page then. That's it for me right now.
This thing from Matthew Heilman, Construction Inspector, Town of Farmington, Water and Sewer Department. I mean, last Friday, is that anything we should be concerned about?
Oh, comments, so those are probably Town of Farmington sewer comments on the plans, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think they plan to address those comments, the applicant does. So, maybe one more thing. Remember when we talked about the sanitary sewer maybe a month or two ago? We had Steve Metzger here.
Mhm.
And so we're still on, I think the plan is still to have this pump station 7 where all of these lots will flow to be online the end of December 2022. That's still the schedule.
Still on track?
Yes.
And that's well before you're going to have a house ready to move into, correct? I can't imagine that would go that fast.
Yeah.
Wes, we have a draft seeker lead agency coordination resolution. Is this something you wanted to do tonight?
Yeah, definitely. If you guys are willing, and all this does is it kicks off the seeker process. It doesn't mean that you're not making any decisions on the subdivision plan. You're not making any decisions on seeker. It just kicks off the seeker process to begin coordination with other involved agencies, including the town board, who are going to be asked to extend the drainage improvement area. I've also included, just out of an abundance of caution, I've included the town of Farmington as an involved agency, Ontario County Planning Board as an involved agency, since they're receiving this under GML 239, I believe, and then New York State Department of Health for realty subdivision approval. So that means that the Town of Victor Planning Board, the town staff would be forwarding a copy of the full EAF, Part 1, that was completed by the applicant, to these involved agencies for their review, and asking that they provide their consent to the Town of Victor Planning Board being lead agency for seeker.
So go ahead with this then.
Sure.
This is a resolution for Stonebrook preliminary subdivision, East Victor Road, today's date, 6/14/22, application number 2, PS 22. Whereas on or about May 10th, 2022, the Secretary of the Town of Victor Planning Board received a preliminary subdivision application entitled Stonebrook subdivision, proposed on the east side of East Victor Road and at the terminus of Sunray Crest Drive, tax map number 28.04-2-62.000. And whereas it is the intent of Jeff Smith, Woodstone Custom Homes, that's the applicant, to develop 85 single-family residences using the Town of Victor's clustered subdivision provisions found in Article 5 of Chapter 184 of the Victor Town Code, I assume that is, where the residences would be clustered on approximately 50 acres of the approximate 115-acre parcel, 15 acres of the lands being located in the town of Farmington. Whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board preliminarily classifies the project as Type 1 action under State Environmental Quality Review Act pursuant to the following sections of Seekers, that's SEQRA, Seekers, implementing regulations. Section 617.4, paragraph B5(3), in a city, town, or village having a population of 150,000 persons or less, 200 units to be connected at the commencement of habitation to existing community or public water and sewerage systems, including sewage treatment works, and section 617.4, paragraph B10, any unlisted action that exceeds 25% of any threshold in this section occurring wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any publicly owned or operated parkland, recreation area, or designated open space, including any site on the Register of National Natural Landmarks pursuant to 36 CFR Part 62, which is incorporated by reference pursuant to Section 617.17 of this part. Whereas the project is substantially contiguous to the Auburn Trail, a publicly owned recreational facility, thereby reducing the 200-unit threshold for residential units to be connected to public water or sewer to 50 units, that's 25% of 200 units, thus triggering a Type 1 classification. And whereas the Planning Board as an involved agency has identified the following additional involved agencies and associated approvals or decisions for which lead agency coordination must be conducted. The Victor Town Board, for the extension of drainage improvement area. Town of Farmington, potential acceptance of 15 acres of open land, sanitary sewer flows to the Farmington wastewater treatment plant. Ontario County Planning Board, General Municipal Law, Section 239N, referral. New York State Department of Health, Realty Subdivision. And whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board intends to proceed with coordinated review as required for Type 1 actions, and a lead agency must be established prior to making a determination of significance, now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby declares its intent to act as lead agency and directs the Planning Board Secretary to mail the long EAF Part 1 completed by the project sponsor and a copy of the subdivision application to all involved and interested agencies, notifying them that a lead agency must be agreed upon within 30 calendar days of the date of the environmental assessment form, the EAF, was mailed to them, expressing the Town Planning Board's intent to act as lead agency. Notification will be sent to the Victor Town Board, Town of Farmington, Ontario County Planning Board, and the New York State Department of Health. Do you have a motion on this?
I'll move it.
Scott moves it, and a second?
Second.
Al seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, send it out. Okay, anything else on this one? Nothing else on this one? Nothing else on anything? Then how about a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Wes, what's this drawing here from you folks that I have?